So I thought I'd do an update video here that we're about a month after starting for a client who's asked us to come in and help her deal with a freshly cut waterway that her concern, and you can see where the concern is here, that all of this silt, a little bit more and it'll start flowing into the pond. And so I'm going to link here to the first video where we talk in greater detail about the origin of this project and the fact that she had flooding in her basement and all these issues. So she had this trench cut into the property to send water down to the pond, but the excavators made it just a very straight shot with no interruptions, and so silt was dumping into her pond. We created rock impoundments, etc. I'll look at that a little bit more and see how those are performing. We've had near historic rain in the last month and a half, maybe 8 inches or more, 10 inches or more, and so far the base of this is filling with silt, but not enough to overflow into the pond. And so today we're going to modify this space. Instead of just being one sharp cut, we're going to terraform this into some swales, take all of this sod and use it to create raised garden beds that will defend the pond from inundation from the silt, and then harvest the silt to cap onto those beds so that we're ready to plant out wet-loving elderberry and currant berms to absorb pulse events of water later on in the season. So I'll come back to that in a little minute once we start cutting, but I just thought I would document what this looks like for now. It's just a raw excavator cut with, impossible to manage the weeds, there's no production, and it's very susceptible to heavy rain. So let's rectify that and document as we go. So we're 2 hours in and we're taking a few minute break to get water. Henry's taking care of that. And we've got this repaired in a good way, but it still needs definitely seeds to be put down and mulch applied. But this gives you an idea of what we've got going. So we dug through all the sod and vegetation just to get the weeds out, because we want to design this into permanent gardens. All the sod was put upside down in a berm that now when the water wants to overflow with silt, the silt's been harvested out, so there's a new fresh place for silt to deposit. The water can now flow into this berm, which will wick up, and this will all be planted to varieties of elderberry, maybe some black currants, maybe elecampane, valerian on the water side. Lots of hungry, thirsty, big herbaceous plants to filter the water further, with a spillway that forces the water to come up and over and then finally through grass before it leaves, if it does need to leave. And we've designed permanent raised beds on the far side. These are markers because Ali found a pile of turtle eggs right in there, so we're going to leave that alone. And then temporarily we've got a board here as a backer to build a permanent raised bed along this side, and our client said she actually wanted to leave the wood. She's going to hammer in some rebar and take these boards away. We're planning on setting posts at the 4 corners of these and making a trellis for hardy kiwi for all of this, and then we'll be putting in all sorts of beautiful edible perennial flowers. There'll be bronze fennel, sweet Sicily, some nitrogen fixers, probably some senna, etc. And then since these banks are very steep, we've got a little minor walkway for management, and then we'll plant this out to creeping thyme, oregano, strawberries, things that can have a foothold in a lock in the soil where it's stable, and then be able to pour over to protect this area. And probably put some rocks in the bottom as well just to interrupt the water. So that's 2 hours of work to get the soil in this way, and no inputs from off-site, which is really fun.
He carries a shovel in his trunk so that he can move them.
Oh, pick them up without getting bit, right?
So they don't snap and so they don't get hit.
Yeah. My dad usually grabs them by the tail.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, if you're quick and lucky, you can do it.
So I'll try to make this a quick update from the first video. And again, you'll see in the description where you can link back to that. But this is the main waterway. The area we're working on today was at the very bottom of it before it gets to the pond. Some things I'd want to highlight is overall the cover crops feel like they've worked out beautifully so far. We've got some summer squash along this one berm, which will ultimately be a perennial planting berm that's undersown to radish and daikon. We've got daikons, some flowers, some more squash. This is a little lean. I think it's because the pitch is strong. Probably should have put down more mulch. We also had a tremendous amount of rain immediately after all the seeds went down, so I'm glad anything took. And then good baseline carpet of buckwheat coming up. It's a little bit more yellow than I'd like, but I think that's because the soil has just been so inundated with water. So as this dries out and the summer heats up, this should take off in a good way. So we've got the vegetative cover, the annual cover, getting established all through here, beating out the weeds that were there. And then the rock systems have been working quite well, I'd say. So you can see each of them none of them shifted with all the heavy rains, but you can see where soil was deposited upstream of them, which was the goal. Some soil blows out here or there, but all these interruptions help deposit soil throughout, which we can harvest and bring back onto the beds or leave in position and grow more wet-tolerant perennial plants in there, to be determined. In fact, it's kind of sweet to see succession already happening. There's some poplar seedlings that since this excavation happened already sprouted. So nature's ready to put this into a really strong perennial element soon enough. These water bars are doing well. Our transplants of squash are putting on flowers. The amaranth not so well, but this trench was redug, and so I think a lot of them were buried. The water bars were extended. With all the rain, the decision was made to make them a little bit more aggressive for now, just to make sure we don't have any more erosive losses down this watershed, and then we can always fill them back in gently if needed. And what I love to see here is that there's enough gentle water flow in between these rainstorms that now we're starting to get a little bit of a spring expression in here, which is a hope that I had, was to have some persistent water in this system, because that's a great habitat. You can already see little algae bloom, so there's more nutrient happening. That's a safe little plume that could always be, this just started forming. That could be extracted and used as probably one of the most nutrient-rich mulches we could want for our perennials that come in here. I'm seeing dragonflies and moths and butterflies come in here now, and so it's stabilizing in a great way. And again, what we were working on today was down at the bottom, so the last ditch, literally, figuratively, and we'll take one last look at there and wrap it up. So yeah, just a quick wrap-up portion of the video. A little bit more work was done. My client's son had started some sweet potatoes from slips that rooted nicely, so we set them into the top of this berm. Tomorrow I'll plan to come back through, Sasha and I perhaps, and get all of this 100% set in cover seed. We're going to go heavy on daikon just to decompact and loosen, add organic matter, because there's a lot of clay content down in here. We'll be putting in beans, maybe some zucchini, just to get good broadleaf coverage. And so these are shaped up. Where the turtle eggs were, we put some vegetation just to keep that cool and marked it. That's going to just be left alone, because that's important, just to let nature be. And then we've added in a couple inverted speed bumps just to slow the water and deposit more, and then an actual speed bump with the idea that it's going to be easier to harvest silt deposits from a flat trench like this than it will be from a wet bottom down in there. And so hopefully this will be where we maintain and harvest silt for each of these raised beds as fertility topping material. And again, we'll of course share an update video in the fall. We're done with the hard earthworks for now. We're going to let this all settle. We're going to get the vegetation set in motion to hold and keep the soil healthy. And then in the fall we'll revisit this with the perennial design and the deep mulches. And all of that we'll document and share. But again, this is, now we're in, I think it's like 6 hours of total physical labor with almost no external inputs except seed. And so far it's been handling some of the most chaotic rainstorms that we've had this season. A little ephemeral pool there, it's nice. That's enough for today. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to do so you can see more updates on things like this and for our personal projects. And if it feels helpful to get advice and consultation, we offer that locally in the Finger Lakes area, but also remotely online. We can do video or audio, but I'm not trying to plug myself that much. But I hope you do this where you live for whatever waterways you have to help protect these beautiful recreational but also ecologically critical spaces in the landscape. Thanks.